Well, hi there. So in this video, we're going to be practicing costs. I know that the last lecture was kind of long, about 18 minutes, but there's a lot to cover. And what this practice problem set asks you to do is kind of just look through and assess, did I understand? Did I follow along with what was going on here? So the very first picture is actually a picture that you need to be able to draw for the AP microeconomics exam. And it's a graph of a firm's Mr. DARP, right? The marginal revenue, the demand, the average revenue, and then of course the price the firm has to charge, which we learned that in a previous video. It's also going to include the three cost curves: marginal cost, ATC, and AVC. And this firm is kind of in what we call zero economic profit. It's in equilibrium. Later on in this class, we're going to talk about why would equilibrium be zero economic profit, and how can we tell that this firm is earning zero economic profit in just a moment. But for first thing, we're actually just going to try to reproduce this graph. And it's a little bit of a step-by-step process to be able to do this in such a way that we earn all of our points. So first, recognize that this is a firm graph. This is not the same as a market, right? The market is just the supply and demand. It looks like that, supply and demand, and it tells us the price. And that's actually where this price is coming from. So it'd actually be better if I drew it kind of like right there. And it's telling this firm, this particular firm, hey, buddy, the price is this price in the market, so you better charge that as the firm. So we're going to draw first a horizontal line. We're going to label it Mr. and then demand. We're going to put price right here that the firm charges, because price really goes on this axis. It's easy to remember Mr. DARP, marginal revenue, demand for the firm's products, and then average revenue, again, not really a helpful thing except for the acronym, and then the price that the firm charges for its products. And we know that this is like the demand curve in the market, and that's the supply curve in the whole market. But this is the demand curve for the firm's products, and we notice it's perfectly elastic, is another thing to notice about this. We're going to next draw our marginal cost curve. And we're going to go ahead and actually label that, because that's the firm's supply curve as well. So the firm has a supply curve, and it is just the marginal cost of production. The firm has a demand curve for its products, and it's that horizontal line at marginal revenue and the price from the market. Then we're going to identify QF. This is the quantity where MR equals MC. That's the quantity where the firm maximizes profit. Next, we put our two average cost curves on here. And I'm going to tell you that the easiest way to do it is come down, hit that minimum, and then come back up again. And try, if you can, if it's not quite there, make a bigger dot, and then put ATC. And then come along and go down, hit that minimum, take your pen off, right? Take your pen off, and then come back up again. And if you really want to be kind of good at it, you get a little bit closer. You get a little bit closer, and that's because as basically you increase quantity of output, you've got the distance between AVC and ATC is actually AFC, and it's shrinking as a portion of the ATC because you're actually spreading out that fixed cost over more and more units of output. And so as more units are produced, the AVC becomes a larger and larger part of the ATC. It makes up a larger and larger portion of it. So again, that vertical distance between the two is where the AFC is, and that's why we don't need to necessarily put it on this graph. Now, the last thing to observe is that, well, where we're producing at QF, the price equals the ATC. So you can see ATC value is here. It also equals the price. That tells us this firm is breaking even. If ATC is above the price, then the firm's losing money. If ATC is less than the price, then the firm is earning a profit. So let's take a look at comparing price and ATC. Circle the correct answer. If price is bigger than ATC, well, the firm's earning a profit. If the price equals it, such as the picture we just drew, the firm's earning break even. And if it's less than, well, the firm's losing money. This is the shutdown rule. If the AVC is less than the price, but the price is still greater than the AVC, but still less than ATC, graphically, that would be like if the price was in here, right there, somewhere in here, right? And if it's in that range, it's above that AVC line in terms of the minimum of AVC. And if it's in that range, then we actually say the firm is losing money. And we know they're losing money because the price would be less than the ATC, but it should operate temporarily. And again, I'm going to show you why in a later video. If the price, though, falls way down here, right, below whatever that minimum value is for the AVC, I know that's glare is a little bit hard to see right there. So if it's below that level of the AVC, that minimum level, then the firm should just shut down. They're better off losing their fixed cost only. And again, I'm going to come back later and we'll actually show you why that is true. Now, a couple more practice problems that ask you to kind of describe costs. And again, I'm really sorry about this terrible glare, it's right in the way. If we're going to zoom in just a little bit, and maybe that'll help. You can still see, hopefully. All right. The amount of loss if a firm shuts down and doesn't operate, well, that's just the fixed cost. And that's what would happen if we were shutting down in the picture above. The slope of a total cost curve, well, that's the rate of change of total cost over change in total product. And that's actually the marginal cost. It's also the derivative of the total cost function for those folks who are taking calculus. Variable cost plus fixed cost, well, that just equals the total cost. The added cost of doing something one more time, that's another way of saying the marginal cost, the additional cost. Does not depend on the quantity of output produced and exists even at zero output. That's our key, that it's going to be fixed cost. And then the change in total cost generated by producing one more unit of output. Well, that's the same here as what we just wrote. The change in total cost divided by the change in product is marginal cost. So you can see the most important one is going to end up being marginal cost. And that's because it's how we maximize profit. All right, let's do some true false. Marginal cost is the change in total cost generated by an additional unit of output. Well, that's true. That is the definition. And if we filled in the table in the lecture last time, we also know that marginal cost is the change in variable cost from one additional unit of output. That's also true. Marginal cost curve must cross the minimum of the average total cost curve. So that's saying that marginal cost must cross at the minimum of the ATC, and that is also true. So all three of these statements are true. All right, now last one, we're going to try without a calculator to fill in this table. Hopefully, man, that glare is awful. Hopefully, we're going to be able to do this one. Now, we've got variable cost 10, total cost 30 when we have total product of 1, 18 and 38 at 2. That means our fixed cost must equal 20. It must be the difference between those two. So if I take 31 and I add it to 20, I get 51. If I take 20 and subtract it from that 70, I get 50. So that's how we figured that out, is we said, well, the difference here has to be the fixed cost, so we can use that to figure out the variable and the total for units 3 and 4. The marginal cost is the change in the total cost associated with an additional unit of output. And we know that the zero level of total product would be total cost equals 20. How do I know that? Well, because the fixed cost is 20. So the change in total cost from 0 to 1 total product, and that's what we're looking for, is the change in total cost over the change in total product, would be 10 because it's 20 to 30. And that's, so 10 divided by 1 is $10. Again, it's not going to be 30 because we're going from 0 to 1. The cost at unit 0 is actually $20. That's our $20 fixed cost. Here we've got another change, 8, and this one 13, and then last but not least 19. So it actually also does one of those as well, little J shapes. Average total cost. Well, now we're just taking this total cost number of 51 and dividing it by 3. That's 17. And then average variable cost, well, that's our $18 divided by 2, so that's 9. All right, hopefully this helped you understand and practice costs in a little bit more detail. I'll see you next time.